What are signs that a person genuinely is unintelligent? Story 1. Inability to see a problem or scenario from another person's point of view. They don't have to agree with the other person, but they should be able to understand an alternate perspective. Story 2. Acting like they know better than you on a topic they ask about. Specifically, this is coming from someone in the IT field. The number of people who when I ask questions will go no it can't be that and refuse to even try, I have zero respect for them. Story 3. When you ask them something hypothetical but they don't understand it and get angry. What if you were to travel to this city by train? Would the trip be cheaper then? No, I used my car for this. I meant what if you did, but I didn't, I used my car. Story 4. They don't understand hypothetical situations. Whenever you try to ask their opinion or what would they do on a fake situation they get mad. Because they don't understand is not real. It is really weird to experience it in real life. Story 5. They are absolutely convinced that they are intelligent. All intelligent people know that they know nothing and that the amount of knowledge they don't have vastly oversizes the knowledge they possess. Show me a person with absolute conviction, and he'll show you a person who's not flexible in his mind. Story 6. Not necessarily unintelligent but not a good sign. No passion for learning and being curious. If I had to choose between two applicants, one who is undoubtedly a brilliant mind but only wants to be better than everyone and one who loves to learn and shows an interest in others' work, I'd take the latter every time. Story 7. Unintelligent people often overestimate their own intelligence, misread situations, and credit their misreading to being smarter than everyone else. Hey, race an example: the dude in the giant truck who pulls onto the shoulder of the traffic-jammed highway and drives past all the other idling cars to an exit to get there sooner. That guy genuinely believes that he figured out something that no one else did. He thinks he figured out how to avoid a traffic jam because he's smarter than all the other people waiting in traffic to get to that exit. He thinks everyone would do that if they were just smart enough to have thought of it. He's not smart enough to realize that the rest of the people are just trying not to be, and probably already thought about driving on the shoulder, but decided against it because it's a thing to do. Story 8. Weird comb-over, tiny hands, orange makeup, mushroom cocked, tie that comes down low enough to cover aforementioned mushroom. Unable to string more than 4 words together in making a point without some sort of self-aggrandizement. Story 9. Their approach to politics is team-based and not policy-based. They think one party is universally better than the other, in every facet. They are very vocal with their opinions but are close-minded and refuse to engage in good faith discourse about the issues. There is nothing that can shake their belief in the moral soundness of their political affiliation. They think that politicians give a flying about them. Story 10. Sheesh, I don't think half these commenters know the difference between A and intelligence. In my experience, unintelligent people take things very literally, metaphors and analogies go right over their head. Story 11. I believe there is a study that pointed to people below 85 IQ were incapable of comprehending false scenarios. They would ask them, what would you feel right now if you had skipped breakfast this morning, and get the response, no, I did eat breakfast this morning, and no matter how many times the question was reworded or explained, it was just beyond their comprehension. Well, intelligence is a spectrum, so the more difficultly a person has answering what if scenarios, the less intelligent they likely are. Story 12. A refusal to think critically. When they're wrong about something or perform a task or job incorrectly, they just do it the same way over and over and expect a different result. Intelligent people break it down, admit their mistake and try different approaches until they get it right. I would also say that asking people one respects for help is a sign of intelligence because a level of humility is required to truly grow as a human. Story 13. If somebody's a racist, they're an idiot. If they're gullible enough to think somebody's skin tone makes them better or worse than somebody else, they are dumb as, it doesn't matter if they've done a smart thing at some point. If they're racist, it means they can't critically think through such obvious bullshit. Story 14. Their opinion is easily swayed. I'm not talking about people who are confronted with facts that prove them wrong and they accept them. Those are intelligent people. The people I'm talking about are those that supposedly have a strong opinion about something, and will suddenly change their stance at the slightest challenge regardless of how long they've held this opinion or whatever facts they are presented. Story 15. Voted for Trump. Bonus points if they voted for Trump not realizing that he was going to directly and negatively impact them, e.g., funding cuts to a support program, lose their job, risk of deportation, etc. Story 16. When they call everyone else uneducated if they don't agree with a person. I've met PPL with a master's degree, and they are pretty unintelligent and think that degree makes them automatically the smartest in the room. Story 17. I've got a buddy on the other side of the political spectrum who frequents Twitter and listens to Joe Rogan religiously. I don't care what kind of media you choose to interact with, even if I don't like your selection, but this buddy regularly tells me that I'm brainwashed by the media that I consume, and I always think, dude, how can you not see that it's all bullshit from every direction? That lack of honest awareness might qualify. Story 18. Possessing the emotional immaturity of a spoiled brat. Highly prone to crashing out and uses people as mere objects to take their frustrations out on when they don't get things their way and their way only, even if it doesn't benefit them or make logical sense. Story 19. Lack of curiosity, no critical thinking skills, very rigid views and are unable to digest new information. They start tripping out when said information conflicts with whatever thing they've chosen to believe. Story 20. An infuriating inability or refusal to accept that someone is simply outlining a pragmatic understanding of a topic pitfalls, and all instead perceiving their words as a moral endorsement of whatever unfortunate thing they're describing is. Let's look at an example. It's inevitable that if a people become significantly poorer or more oppressed, particularly if clearly at the hands of those more powerful than them, that some among them will fight back, often with tragic consequences. So you think it's okay for insert any country's terrorists to kill loads of people? No, you're just a monumentally willfully ignorant person with not even the most basic listening comprehension skills, and are more interested in competing in a conversation than engaging in a shared pursuit of truth. Some of these people might not be stupid though. Some are manipulative and thrive in an environment where they can twist your words to position themselves as morally superior to you to increase their own perceived status with others around you. I used to waste my time in my 20s engaging with these idiotsaholes, lacking the maturity to know that they're either too dumb or are only trying to make you look like a monster for their own ends, and nothing good can come out of such a conversation. It's refreshing being middle-aged and knowing exactly what kind of people they are. Story 21. A wise man avoids others, but when he cannot due to circumstance, or should not due to responsibility, he treats them kindly. In every way you can measure intelligence, the one who is loud and cruel comes up short. Story 22. They censor people they don't agree with instead of presenting arguments and evidence to support their claims. They immediately resort to personal attacks or outright violence if they don't have a proper argument against someone. They believe that it is more important to stick to their beliefs than realize their mistakes even when presented hard evidence that proves them wrong. Their emotions are easily weaponized and manipulated by people who tell them how they should feel or think about something, because they'll never question the ideologies being fed to them. They are afraid to think for themselves because they might lose the benefit of validation from their group. Story 23. Replying Trump to any question posed on social media, in a negative connotation, not realizing how much of their life they've wasted crying about Trump to everyone because they're in search of validation from their peers. When they consider opinion as fact and consider someone else's opinion wrong if it doesn't align with theirs. They disown friends or family because of how they voted. On that same note, people who vote out of emotion, when they cannot see past their nose and throw tantrums like a 5-year-old because they didn't get their way. People who can't see a big picture and also don't know how to see that sometimes you have to seemingly take the L to reach the bigger W as a whole. Someone who gets worked up about politics, especially if they have zero aspirations to become a career politician. Anti-vaxxers. Story 24. Your day is easier when they are not around. The US Army know a lot about IQ, and their studies show that if you have an IQ of 83 or less around 10th percentile, then you will do more harm than good and any money spent is down the drain. Story 25. I think we're all about the same base level of intelligence. We just all have things we're better at than other things. Some of you just read that sentence and cringed at my lack of an apostrophe, but I bet you struggle with math. You might be a molecular geneticist, but can you hear a car engine running and know what's wrong with it just by the sound? Can you then fix that problem and get the car to work with no issues? You might be the best car mechanic in the world, but can you design a building and then participate in its erection? You might be a great architect, but can you explain molecular genetics through 46 years on this earth? That's what I've taken away. We're all about the same level of intelligence. It's the pompous who think they're smarter than other people who are the truly unintelligent ones. Story 26. When someone pretends to know everything and is very vocal and adamant about something outside their area of expertise if they have any, and refuse to learn. I have dealt with a lot of people, and the most difficult ones to deal with are experts in any field. They are reasonable to some extent, and most are very eager to learn other points of view even if they do not necessarily agree. The stubborn who refuse to learn, however, is pain in it to deal with. It is like screaming at the ocean to try to convince them their opinion is wrong with ample evidence. The average conversation with them goes like this: them say some wrong opinions me know. It is wrong because present evidence them well know, present their source and logic me that is not what they meant, use their own source to present counter-arguments them silence theme a few minutes later, well, I still think you are wrong. Story 27. The inability or unwillingness to imagine another person's life experience being radically different from your own, a lack of empathy, a lack of perspective. I think you have to be highly intelligent to be a truly kind person, not just a nice person but a kind one. Story 28. People who lack self-awareness. They're unable to grasp things about themselves or self-reflect, and therefore they come off as hypocritical, oblivious, inconsiderate, self-absorbed, and tone-deaf. Story 29. Mean people. Time and time again life has proven to me that people that are mean are typically the dumb ones, and the people that are exceptionally nice, polite, and pleasant are the intelligent ones. If you look around you will see this to be true. Grasshopper. Story 30. Using very black and white thinking. They hold overly simplistic models of things. Something is either X or Y, good or evil, right or wrong, my team versus your team. They use these shortcut stereotypes to navigate through life, without applying any further thought or willingness to consider exceptions to these rules, as exceptions make things messy and complicated. For example, people are either male or female, men are always stronger than women, Canada until recently is our ally, Russia is our enemy. We have always been at war with Eurasia. Children and animals develop very simple models of the world, e.g., a dog who has been kicked by a man with a beard will believe all men with beards are dangerous. However, as children grow up, they usually discover that the world is more complicated, more nuanced. there aren't always easy answers to things. Unfortunately, some people never reach this point. Story 31. Given a scale of 1 to 10, the only values they recognize are 1 and 10. There's no 2 to 9 in their world. Everything is divided into opposing sides: good-bad, friend-enemy, all-nothing, or as Trump's pal Roger Ailes puts it, friendship or scorched earth. If you say some, they hear all; if you say few, they hear none. An intelligent person can look at the Nazi Party rise to power in Germany leading up to World War II and comment on the things they did right without endorsing the things they did wrong. An unintelligent person hears what they consider to be praise of the Nazi Party, and because they don't understand anything other than yes-no, they'll accuse you of endorsing the Holocaust. That's all they know. You put it on a pedestal or you condemn it. There's no room for thought, discussion, or learning. Back in the day when academia was academia and not job training, it was expected that you could have a speaker on campus expressing some very polarizing views and you could respect the knowledge even if you didn't respect the voice it was coming from. Now students on campus are trying to police thought, and even when they do protest properly, like opposing Jewish oppression of Muslims in Gaza, there's now a government in place in the US that will oppose them for doing so, in essence promoting continued ignorance and stupidity. What we need is free thought and much better education. What we're getting is the opposite, and the stupid people can't tell the difference. Story 32. They make a Nazi salute in public, promote a bunch of bigoted and racist stuff online, and then claim the reason that people don't like them is because of the woke mind virus or something. Story 33 doesn't necessarily make them unintelligent, but since I'm in college it makes sense to me. There's a huge superiority complex with people in law, medical, and engineering majors that since their major is harder and they are guaranteed to make more money out of college that they are more intelligent. Sure, they know more about their specific major, but it doesn't make them any more intelligent than before they went to college. Story 34. Inability to properly grasp hypothetical scenarios and/or interpret signs that the question being asked is a hypothetical. For example, if you ask, what would you do if you walk inside your house and there's a robbery going on, and that's when you realize you left the door unlocked, and they reply with something along the lines of, but I locked my door, or but we're at home right now, infuriating honestly. Story 35. Someone who seeks validation all the time, can't keep stable friendships or relationships, main character personality, but also exhibit signs of imitating other people or copying mirroring them as they have no sense of self and constantly depends on what others think. Story 36. Thinking all the experts are morons and they, with exactly 0 days experience in the field, know the super simple way of fixing everything the experts are too dumb to think of. Story 37. Talk clapping. Clapping your hands together after every other word while having an argument, repeating your argument ad nauseum until the other person bows down, actively stating I don't read really in any situation, but specifically when confronted with published evidence refuting their claim position, lack of spatial awareness. They seemingly think the world ceases to exist if it's not within a 6-foot radius of themselves. I've noticed this more when driving now, where some people just have no regard for other drivers around them and will merge without any thought to what's around them, and most glaringly, an inability to think independently or critically. I don't want to make this political, but it's unfortunately the best example I know. I'm convinced that a solid 50 of MAGA supporters have straight-up learning disabilities. They are lied to constantly and can't seem to identify the pattern of lies. A normal person hears the sky is green and can look outside and be like, MAGA supporters then hear I never said the sky was green and they instantly forget that it happened in the first place. Even when presented with video evidence showing that he said the sky was green not 24 hours before, you can still support him if you like, but recognize that he lies constantly. The intelligence issue comes into play when you refuse to acknowledge the pattern, and that maybe the next thing he says is also a lie. Story 38. To me, the biggest red flag of being actually stupid is if I ask someone a hypothetical and they reply by refuting the hypothetical. For example, imagine you didn't have breakfast this morning, but I did okay, but just imagine, yeah, but I didn't have breakfast. This isn't hyperbole. This has happened a handful of times in my life, not the same hypothetical example. They were all dumb as rocks. Story 39. Understanding concepts but being unable to incorporate them into their worldview. E.g., I know what the placebo effect is, but I always feel better after touching my magic crystal, so it must work. Story 40. Rigidity of perception and thinking, lack of enthusiasm, childish and petty behavior, inability to perceive, empathize, or intuit other circumstances or perspectives, to name a few. My mom is a gifted teacher in a low-income elementary school, and the battle she has to fight with her peers just to get them to allow her to teach their gifted students, which they legally can't prevent her from doing, is terrible. All because many of these nothing-burger teachers simply cannot accept that a depressive, or hyperactive, or ill-behaved, or low-performing student can possibly be gifted. Gifted in their minds means smart, and all smart people must excel academically always, and they're always well-behaved, too, otherwise, they're not gifted, or they don't deserve their gifted education as if it's some kind of prize. Reggie can't be gifted because he wets his pants and is always running around the classroom. Never mind that he speaks like an adult, is constantly asking questions, and has a notebook full of dinosaur facts he's collected. Never mind that their giftedness is immediately apparent to other gifted people or those experienced with working with gifted people. Never mind that he's been living with his grandmother since June after his father murdered his mother and got into a shootout with the cops. Never mind that the most positive engagement he can get out of his homeroom teacher is a stone-faced glare followed by a quick scolding that he should quiet down and get back to work, and the only activities he's done in class are computer-based mass-produced garbage that does nothing to engage the students' curiosity and next to nothing to actually teach them anything. It's ironic, but some of the most incomprehensibly stupid people I've ever met were teachers. Story 41. Anti-education, anti-science. Refusing to admit wrong and change an opinion or stance when crucial new information is added to the equation. Someone unable to admit they made a mistake, or were misinformed, or misled. Someone unable to show empathy to somebody they do not relate to in the slightest. Aside from being a member of the same species, someone who goes out of their way to damage nature, flora and fauna. I could really go on for hours, as we have no lack of idiots. Story 42. Difficulty learning from mistakes. 2. Overconfidence in limited knowledge. 3. Poor critical thinking skills. 4. Inability to understand nuance or complexity. 5. Rigid or black and white thinking. 6. Lack of curiosity. 7. Limited problem-solving abilities. 8. Poor emotional regulation. 9. Weak communication skills. 10. Inability to reflect or self-evaluate. Story 43. The big one for me, the one that really makes me think someone is a complete and utter moron, is when they talk at you, and not with you, people that do not listen to what you are saying, and just waiting for their turn to talk. The thing is, they don't need to hear what you say because they'll not be processing it, they'll not be modifying their language at all based on your input, because they can't, they are simply speaking at you, and are unable to actually converse, because they cannot process verbal communication in real time. It drives me nuts, and it is such a clear sign of someone who just isn't intelligent. Story 44. I think the most annoying kind are those who have no sense of observation, unable to analyze a situation or understand what's going on around them. These people can, however, turn out to be intelligent if you explain a problem clearly and ask them for a solution. I am convinced that there are a dozen different types of intelligence. Story 45 argues with absolute confidence about topics they don't understand, probably read from a Facebook post comment section, then loses to a 5-second Google search, then tells you Google is wrong.